Eleanor Pritchard, a woman of science and logic, had dedicated her life to mapping the uncharted corners of the world. Her name was synonymous with precision, her maps sought after by explorers and dreamers alike. From the blistering heat of the Sahara to the icy plains of the Arctic, she had conquered every terrain with her trusty compass, her theodolite, and an unyielding spirit. Yet no map had prepared her for the Eldritch Wood. Eleanor had heard the whispers and tales of the Eldritch Wood, dismissed them as folklore and superstition. It was just another forest, she thought, waiting to be charted, its secrets revealed on the grid of her maps. Little did she know the Eldritch Wood held secrets that defied logic, a darkness that whispered back. It was a crisp autumn morning when Eleanor, equipped with her tools and a spirit of scientific curiosity, stepped across the threshold of the Eldritch Wood. The air grew heavy, the sunlight struggling to penetrate the dense canopy above. A profound silence descended, broken only by the crunch of fallen leaves beneath her boots. This was the silence of a world holding its breath, the quiet before a storm. The Eldritch Wood was ancient, its trees gnarled and twisted, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The undergrowth was thick and tangled, a labyrinth of thorns and shadows. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a cloying perfume that prickled her nostrils. As Eleanor ventured deeper, the forest seemed to close in around her, the trees pressing closer, the shadows lengthening. The path, if one could call it that, was treacherous, littered with fallen branches and concealed by a carpet of moss. The forest felt alive, pulsating with a hidden energy that sent shivers down her spine. It wasn't just the oppressive atmosphere that unsettled Eleanor. It was the silence. The forest was eerily quiet, devoid of the normal sounds of birdsong or rustling leaves. The only sound was the beating of her own heart, loud in the stillness. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, watching her, waiting. The silence was unnerving, pressing in on Eleanor from all sides. It was a silence that seemed to listen, to observe her every move. The absence of natural sounds was unsettling, amplifying the sense of isolation that surrounded her. Days turned into nights, and the silence of the Eldritch Wood remained unbroken. The forest seemed to absorb all sound, leaving Eleanor in a vacuum of eerie quiet. Even her own footsteps on the soft earth seemed muffled, swallowed by the oppressive stillness. The compass, her trusted companion, spun erratically, unable to find its bearings. The needle jittered wildly, pointing north, south, east, west all at once. The familiar weight of the compass in her hand felt alien, cold. The forest was disrupting more than just the natural order. It was disrupting her tools, her logic, her sense of reality. The malfunctioning compass was just the beginning. Her other instruments began to fail, their delicate mechanisms seemingly confounded by an unseen force. The theodolite, normally a marvel of precision, offered only distorted readings. Its lenses, usually crystal clear, were now clouded, as if a film had crept over them. Eleanor, a woman who prided herself on her rationality, tried to rationalize the malfunctions. Perhaps magnetic anomalies were interfering with her compass. Perhaps the humidity was affecting the delicate workings of her theodolite, but deep down, a seed of doubt had been sown. Her tools had never failed her before. The forest was toying with her, she realized. It was testing her, pushing her to the limits of her reason. The Eldritch Wood was not just a collection of trees and earth. It was something more, something ancient and malevolent. And she was trapped within its grasp. As the sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows through the trees, Eleanor decided to set up camp. A sense of unease clung to her, a primal fear she couldn't shake off. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sounded unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. She tried to focus on the familiar routine of setting up her tent, building a small fire. The simple tasks, usually a source of comfort and routine, now felt heavy, laden with a sense of dread. The forest pressed in around her, a silent, watchful presence. The silence, if that was even possible, seemed to deepen as darkness fell. The air grew heavy, filled with a strange energy that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. It was then that she heard it, a faint whisper, carried on the wind. Was it the wind through the leaves or something more sinister? The whisper came again, a sibilant murmur that seemed to slither through the trees. It was close now, just beyond the perimeter of the firelight, weaving in and out of the shadows. Eleanor strained to listen, her heart pounding in her chest. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her. The whispers were not human, she realized. They were something else, something ancient and evil, lurking just beyond the reach of her firelight. Sleep offered no respite. Nightmares, vivid and terrifying, plagued her, filled with images of gnarled branches reaching for her, of eyes watching her from the darkness. The whispers continued, weaving themselves into the fabric of her dreams, turning sleep into a waking nightmare. Exhausted and terrified, Eleanor packed her meager belongings and fled her campsite at first light. She stumbled through the undergrowth, desperate to escape the confines of the woods. The whispers followed, taunting her, hurting her deeper into the heart of the Eldritch Wood. It was then that she saw it, a small wooden cabin nestled amongst the trees. It looked ancient, its walls rotting, the roof caved in. Yet it offered a glimmer of hope, a potential refuge from the unseen horrors that haunted the woods. With a surge of desperate hope, Eleanor approached the cabin. The door creaked open with a groan, revealing a single room, dusty and cobwebbed. The air inside was heavy with the smell of decay and damp earth. In the center of the room, on a makeshift table, lay an ancient tome, bound in leather. Section 8. Secrets in the Tome. The tome was heavy, its leather cover cold and slightly damp to the touch. Intricate symbols, unknown to Eleanor, were etched into the cover. Curiosity, a scholar's thirst for knowledge, overcame her fear. With trembling hands she opened the book. The pages were thick and yellowed with age, the script archaic and difficult to decipher. The language was unknown to her, yet, as she studied the strange symbols and diagrams, a sense of unease settled over her. The illustrations depicted grotesque creatures and rituals, their meaning unsettlingly familiar. As she delved deeper into the tome, a horrifying truth began to dawn. The forest, the whispers, the strange occurrences, they were not random acts of nature, they were deliberate, controlled. The Eldritch Wood was not just a forest, it was a sentient entity, and the tome contained the key to understanding its sinister power. Section 9. The Ritual of the Wood. The tome described the Eldritch Wood as a predator, its hunger insatiable. The forest fed on fear, on the life force of those foolish enough to enter its domain. The whispers, the strange occurrences, the malfunctions of her tools were all part of its design, a way to disorient its prey, to break them down, to prepare them for the ritual. The ritual, as described in the tome, was a sacrifice, a way to appease the hunger of the wood. A life for a life. The chosen vessel, lured deep into the forest, would become one with the wood, their essence consumed, their form twisted into something else. Eleanor, her blood running cold, realized the terrible truth. She wasn't meant to escape the Eldritch Wood. She was the intended sacrifice, chosen from the moment she stepped across the threshold. The forest had been hurting her, guiding her towards her doom. Section 10. The Skinwalker. A guttural growl echoed from outside the cabin, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. The Skinwalker, the guardian of the wood, had come to claim its due. The tome described the creature as a grotesque mockery of humanity, its form shifting, fluid, its eyes burning with an unholy light. Panic seized Eleanor. This was it, the moment the ritual culminated. She had to escape, to find a way to break free from the forest's grasp. But the whispers were louder now, taunting her, urging her to surrender, to accept her fate. Eleanor, her back against the wall, watched in horror as the Skinwalker stalked towards the cabin. Her heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the forest. The creature moved with unnatural grace, its form shifting, contorting, a macabre dance of flesh and bone. Section 11. The Legend of Eleanor Pritchard. The skinwalker lunged. Eleanor screamed, her voice swallowed by the oppressive silence of the Eldritch Wood. The cabin door burst open, splintering into dust. The creature towered over her, its eyes blazing with a hunger as old as the forest itself. And then, silence. The whispers ceased, the forest holding its breath once more. The cabin, the tome, the skinwalker, all vanished, leaving behind no trace of Eleanor Pritchard, the cartographer who dared to map the Eldritch Wood. Some say she's still out there, lost within the forest's grasp, her spirit forever bound to the Eldritch Wood. Others say she became something else, something not entirely human, forever guarding the secrets of the wood. Her fate, like the forest itself, remains a mystery, a chilling legend whispered around campfires, a warning to those who dare to venture into the heart of the Eldritch Wood.